that what happened? Melzar tested them for 10 days, and after 10 days, he saw that, wow, they looked fatter. How can you eat vegetables and have a fatter face and your body looks good and all of that? It's because God gave them grace. God gave them health. God looked after them. And so in spite of the fact that they were only eating vegetables, which didn't, in some cases, one would say that it doesn't make you fat, but God made it so that because they were depending on God and they didn't want to contaminate their bodies, they allowed God to be their helper in health, their nutritionist, their healthy living, and God allowed them to enjoy these blessings so that when Melzar saw them after 10 days, he said, "Wow, you guys are looking good. All right, okay, no more meat, no more drink." And so God allowed them to be able to receive favor from the supervisor, and He allowed them to eat. And so when we jump to verse 17, that's why God said that. And in answer to question 5, we see that God gave them, in question 6 rather, God gave them knowledge, not ordinary knowledge, spiritual knowledge. They were filled with spiritual knowledge, and they were able to do what they needed to do, and God, blessed them. And so that is, the context to fill in the blanks. All right, so they were filled with knowledge is correct. Question 7. What else did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refuse to do, disobeying the king? A. Is it break the law of chastity? B. Kill an innocent man? C. Build him an idol? Or D. Worship the king's golden image? A, B, C, or D? All right, so we read Daniel 3, verse 12, which says, okay, I think I'll read a little bit so that we can get to understand what, let me see. Okay, starting from verse 9, I will read so that we'll be able to understand what is going on. Then spake, and they spake, that means the three Hebrew children, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, spake and said to the king, because it's been long for me to read all from it, so I'm just giving you the shortcut. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever." You can see how they're even wishing the king to live forever in spite of evil that the king is trying to do upon them. They are still praying for the king to live forever. That is what the Lord Jesus Christ says that we should do. When somebody is persecuting you, just pray for them, bless them. And that is what they were doing here. Verse 10, "Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image." Basically, they were being commanded to worship the golden image which the king had set up in that land. And whosoever, it says here, "and whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace." You can see it's burning, it's fiery, and it's also a furnace. Verse 12, "There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon. Shadrach," you see, they're calling them by their Babylonian name, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods." You see, they were trying for them to serve the gods of Babylon, or the idols, I call them idols, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. All right, so that is verse 12, because they didn't want to worship the king's golden image. So that is the answer. All right, question 8. What statements did the three Hebrew youngsters testify to on their theology? What did they say? Question A. It says, try to say them in your own recollection, which means, can you summarize what you know about the three Hebrew children? So that's a way to help us to also learn how we may respond when we are asked to say something about the three youngsters. They were young because they were probably in their 12, 13, 14, 15, or 17. And so they said, what do we say about them? All right. So in verse 16, 17, and 18, we have the answer, but it says, we jump to verse question 9. Intentionally jumping there so that I can answer. Where are the statements of the three Hebrew youngsters found in the Holy Bible? Of course, it's something which I know I've already mentioned. So instead of us looking it up, the location, I'm already giving the location by providing it in Daniel, again, 3:16 to 18, which I will read from here. It says, verse 16 says, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. Verse 18, but if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Which of us can stand up and tell the king of Babylon, when we see the oven, fiery, burning oven, and we say that, well, the king says, bow down to me, bow down to my image, worship my image, and we say that, oh, king, we are not going to do that. And the king says, if you don't do that, you see this oven, you see the fire burning, I'm going to throw you inside. And they said in reply, oh, king, well, what you are trying to do, you are trying to indoctrinate us, you are trying to make us serve your idol and your image. But we are not going to serve your image, we are not going to serve you, we are not going to bow down to those images, because these are idols, and God has told us that we must not bow down to images. And so for that reason, we are not going to do that. And so they even told the king that even if, because the way they answered the king shows that they were 100% obedient to God, and they were not ready to compromise. They were not ready to give in to anything. And so when we look at how things are with us, when we are being asked to do something for God, do we do it 100%? Here is persecution. And the persecution, it says, if you don't obey, I'm going to cut off your neck. If you don't obey, I'm going to shoot you. Shooting is even better, but when your neck is being cut, sliced, slowly, you can feel that it is a very painful death. But here they have fire. They are going to be thrown into fire. and they are being warned. Do you want to obey? If you don't obey, I'm going to throw you into fire. And they said, oh, king, don't worry, about us. We are not going to bow down. Even if our king, if our God, our Almighty doesn't save us, we will still not obey you. So there was no way to say that they were like they had burned the bridge. They burned the bridge behind them, and so there was no going back. They had determined that they were going to obey God. We were going to obey God, follow God, and not allow anything to compromise their faith. So they even told the king in his face, in a respectful way, though you can see that they even asked him, oh, king, live forever. But still, we are not going to obey you because this is what God has said that we should not do. And so we are not prepared to bow down to your king. Then what happens? So we see that. Let's try to do one more to end it. So the answer 8 and 9 are given in 3 Daniel 3:16 to 18. All right. So question 10. How did the king punish, that means the king Nebuchadnezzar, punish Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego for disobeying him? A. He had them thrown into the sea. B. He had them thrown into a fiery furnace. C. He had them cast into prison and starved. D. He had them fed to lions. A, B, C, or D? B. All right. So in Daniel 3:15, we see what he did. And that is the passage I'm going to read. Let's see. Yes, it's it's there also. Okay, but this is reading the whole thing in context, but it's fine. Yeah, 3:17 is also accurate because since they are saying that verse 17, if it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. So they were confirming that because that is what, but what the king had used as a what do you call it, as an encouragement to everybody was that they were going to play some sound, some music, and anyone who didn't obey after hearing that sound, that is like introduction, or heard a boom 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 boom, like something like that, and they were going to use various ways to play the music. And so verse 15 indicated what they were asked to do so that they will be, I think we already read it in the previous verse or some other verse earlier, but the whole idea was that they were going to play about different tunes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so, 7 different things or more, and allow them to prepare. Then after the music, then they were all supposed to bow down and do what the king said, but they refused. Otherwise, they would be thrown into the burning fiery furnace. You can see that this was very, very hot. And so the answer, they had them thrown into the fiery furnace. That was the this. But in verse 15, it provided all of this. And so I will read it just to have it in context and have everything ready. Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulma or dilemma, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, that's King Nebuchadnezzar talking. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God? You see how he's even disrespecting God and saying, defiling things. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands. You see what he was saying? That's when in verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied and told him that, oh king, we are not going to do it. So that is that they had them thrown into the fiery furnace. All right. And is that all? Is there any other? Oh, okay. That's one more. Okay, let's finish it then. I thought we had more. So question 15. How were these young men able to survive? A. God delivered them from their punishment. B. They escaped just before their sentence was carried out. C. They were able to persuade the king to pardon them. D. They deceived the king into punishing someone else. You see, these are all tricky questions, and so we know that they were not full of trickery. They were just purpose. They had a purpose. They had a determination of what they were going to do. So A, B, C, or D. All right, we go to Daniel 3:28. Says, then, should I read that? Then Nebuchadnezzar, I'll just read that, spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who had sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any God except their own God. You can see that, he confessed that, wow, these people, God has given you this blessing that you didn't want to compromise. You were faithful to your God, and because you were faithful, God sent his angel to be amongst them, so that even though they were thrown into the fiery furnace, there was no even smoke. There was nothing like a smoke on their body, because they were young, but they were still full of the Holy Spirit, and they were powerful enough that they had faith in God. And so we are older. If we have the same faith, if we know what God has done for people in the olden time, it is up to us to also serve God in that way, so that God can do great and mighty things in our lives. Amen. Amen.